Hey gang, I'm at Graceland Cemetery right in Chicago today, and it's been a day of trials and tribulations in the car. I was actually going to Montrose Cemetery to do a story about a mother and daughter who were killed by a pretty infamous serial killer here in Chicago. Just didn't have the stomach for it today. I just finished the Ripper Crew the other day, and it's like I can only do so much of that stuff. And I don't want to flood my channel with it either, so we'll space it out. But it turned out it was the wrong cemetery. It was at Irving Park Cemetery. So then I'm like, well, I'll go to St. Casimir and we'll look at some pictures. So I go to St. Casimir, and on the Kennedy Expressway, it's basically shut down with accidents. So I got off the Kennedy, and I wasn't too far away from Graceland here, so let's pivot and let's just look at forgotten people. Not even pictures. Let's just look at some tombstones. Now, if you come here to Graceland on a Saturday, which today is a Saturday, I usually would never plan to come here because it is a tourist farm. So you come in the front gate, there are literally hundreds of people with name tags and tour groups. Pretty cool cemetery, but this is not the day. So I have come to an area where there's just few people, hopefully, and I saw this mausoleum, so I thought I would stop and check it out. It's pretty amazing. You know, you just look at the architecture and it's so inspiring. Look at that lion face. Isn't that something? That is. The name on here is Huck, H-U-C-K. And it is quite elaborate. There are no windows or anything, not that we're gonna see much inside. That is really amazing. Let's take a look at the back side. Now, there used to be a window. Everything's covered up. You have to imagine we had the vandals. Always have the vandals, guys. It's too bad. Look at that ironwork up top there. Actually, I'm going to try and zoom in on that for you. Some nice detail work there with a, looks like a metal cross. And let's just look around. Let's just look at some stones today. Nothing fancy. You have not been to this section before. Forgotten names. This cemetery is really loaded with graves, and they're mostly old graves. I'll just pan out in the distance there. Just seems to go forever. Most of these are from, I'd say the 1800s, early 1900s. Let's see if we can find anything interesting. Look at this old stone. Cannot read it at all. It's totally worn away. I was talking to Frank Troost, who owns, well, his daughter runs it now, Troost Monument Company, 5 generations, and he was telling me that these marble monuments that we have in Chicago, the ones like we just saw, that one here that's worn away in the city, really, well, here's another good example, really take it hard, and it was because of the coal burning back in the late 1800s, 1900s, all the way up to the 1950s and 60s. They were burning coal. And along with cars and the pollution, it's not even the acid rain that does this. Now you look, if you go to the far suburbs even, the marble really takes it a lot better. I always thought it was more the climate and maybe acid rain, but no, it's just simple pollution. Look at that. It looks like a salt block that just melted away. You have no idea who is buried there. And then you look down here, look at that. Isn't that sad? Just a jumble of stones. Well, they do maintain this cemetery really well. And there are a lot of famous graves here. You have to wonder, was there a picture there someday or some type of insignia? Yeah, again, look at how that's... If they only knew in those days, if they only knew, they would have made all the stones of granite or other stones. You know, this looks like a much older stone here, Warren. And you can see how granite weathers much better. Although I will tell you, as I look at this even, granite is kind of just weatherproof, but in this case, this even shows signs of wear. Granite, wow. Here's a woodman of the world. Looks like sandstone or limestone. And you can read it. I think it says Oliver. Born June 24th. Looks like 1812. Died August 18th. 1980? 1880, sorry. 1980, boy, he would be almost 200 years old. Look at this interesting detail. Up here, this is the back of this mausoleum. It's like a copper brass shroud to this rose window. Yeah, you just have to wonder who these people are or were. Probably a husband and wife here. You see that? Again, illegible. Well, it's nice. We found a corner of the cemetery here at Graceland that's unoccupied by humans. And it's nice. I am supposed to do a TV interview with WGN TV here coming up. And one of the things they were asking a lot of questions before the interview, and I had said that the interesting phenomenon, it's like, how did you get into this? And it's like the interesting phenomenon is back in the 1800s or early 1900s, these cemeteries were designed and were a place not only for the dead, but for the living. And I think in the 1900s, I don't know when, but I know when I was growing up, cemeteries were absolutely a taboo subject, in my family at least, and you didn't just go visit the cemeteries. And I think that there are a lot of us that were hidden out there in the closet, so to speak, going and doing what we're doing now, most of you that are watching. And I think we're in a new age where I guess you could just say, like, cemeteries are coming back. They're coming back in vogue for a place for the living. And that's why a place like this, especially in the city of Chicago, I mean, when I was young, I was in the city, but I think it's more for young people because every other block is a stoplight. You gotta have a lot of patience to get around here. And the point I'm trying to make is that this is really a refuge. You know, I'm standing here, I'm like, wow, am I in the middle of the city of Chicago? You would never know it. Isn't that nice? Now here's a hill, the mound, I shouldn't say a hill, it's a mound. And this is the built-in, the ground mausoleums, vaults. And what you see here are the air vents for the crypts down below. And we'll go around, we'll look at this a little closer. Now look at this. The diameter of what that tree, I'm gonna tell you, that is 5 to 6 feet. Crazy. Must have been a very old tree. And there are some old trees here. They're very interesting. Chimneys, they're not chimneys, but they look like chimneys. They're of course to circulate the air. So let's see what we've got here. Yeah, I think I came here during my live in the rain. It's beautiful. They're all in pretty good shape. Wouldn't it be nice to be able to access and go inside and see what they look like inside? I would love to. Always curious to go in the mausoleums. Some beautiful statuary here. I see in the distance, but I see a lot of people over there, so I'm gonna go back this way. Oh, there's one I'll zoom in on for you. Let's see if we can get a closer view of that one. Isn't that beautiful? Very serene here, as I mentioned before. Oh, I guess I got lucky today. This worked out. Gives me a real feeling of peace. Like I was saying, these places are refuges. It's certainly a refuge for me when I walk the cemetery. And it's always seems like a little bit of an adventure. You just never know what you're going to see. And you got to love that almost every cemetery has its own fingerprint, its own face. No two seem to be alike that I have seen so far, and that's part of the intrigue, I think, to visit these different cemeteries. It's an interesting marker up here. No pictures. That's more the Italians and Czech. I don't think there are a lot of those cultures buried here, by virtue of the fact that I don't see pictures on the graves. A lot of German, some Irish, and some other nationalities. Look at all these stones. And to be buried here, you had to have, well, to get monuments like this, you had to have some money. You had to be somebody. Not everybody here, but, you know, all these big monuments. Of course, right in the city, this was the place to be back in the day. But like many of the sections, this is an older section. Look at this little tiny stone here. all by itself. You just wonder, step between these graves. A poor little stone. I am guessing that used to be a lamb, or is a lamb on top, child's grave. You can bet. Some interesting stones up here. Let's take a look at this. Well, again, all of these are illegible. Of course, if you really wanted to know who they are, I'm sure you could talk to the office. Quite a process. They usually have really good records here at the cemeteries. Most of the time. Most of the time. And if you're looking for a place with obelisks, this is the place. It's an interesting statue ahead here. Alonzo Campbell is the name. Let's see here. Again, it's very hard to read. I see 1800s, of course. It's a family plot marker. I see a lot of the graves there. The statue is that the monument on top is that the Roman cloak on the vase, end of life. Now there's one of those metal ones that the people that did this, I think it's the zinc. Can't remember, but you see these from time to time, and they hold up like they're new, except for one we saw recently that just kind of fell apart, or it was vandalized, because they're made in pieces. This is for the Mannings, Edward K. Manning. Young, 1856 to 1864. Wow, 8 years old. Walter K. Manning, 1825-1888. Francis R. Fullerton, wife of 1831-1863. Beautiful. Let's cross over this way and see what's... I see an obelisk that's very large, covered in ivy. It looks beautiful. Brainerd. Let's see what we find over here. Look at this group of stones here. These are all marble, and you can see how what I was talking about before with the pollution, and they don't hold up well at all. So many forgotten souls. And yes, they are forgotten. What were their stories? What were the stories of these two children whose names cannot be read? You have to wonder, more children over there. You always look for that hump on the top. The hump was a lamb typically. Let's see who Brainerd was. There's a large inscription there, and there's something underneath the ivy. We walk around these graves here. I wonder if this was a relief here. Yeah, this used to be a face. Look at that. It looks like it was a woman. Long gone. Long gone, guys. Professor of surgery. I'm not going to move the ivy. Yeah, maybe we can. It looks like president and professor of surgery. His wife. It looks like her name was Evelyn Slight. Interesting. Another pretty amazing monument with obelisk up ahead here. Let's check that out. Two stones. I'm guessing this is a family plot for somebody, but completely illegible. Cannot read it. Washed away. Sands of time. Like all of us. Well, here we can read this. Well, I guess that was a blank. Take that back. Elizabeth Kimbark, wife of Eldridge G. Dahl. It says May 1st, AD 1821, February 7th, AD 1866. Oh, look at this up here. You see her face. Can't make out. Too bad that wasn't protected. Right? Let's see if the husband, yes. Ah, that's very eerie. That is very eerie. That's him. That is Eldridge C. Hall. Born April 2nd, 1815, died April 13th, 1877. By the way, Deb, if you're watching, if you see any of these that you might find a picture, we'll post it on Instagram and also YouTube following this video. Let's go this way. There's a newer marker mixed among the old. This is the Ingalls. And there are a lot of Ingalls here. All of these round markers you see, I'm in between the graves here. Ingalls, Ingalls, Ingalls. No, it's not the Ingalls from Little House on the Prairie. Well, maybe they're related. Maybe they migrated here, or maybe they came from here. George A. Ingalls. Born February 1st, 1820, died February 15th, 1884. NEE Church, Nee Church, below the name of Mary E. Ingalls. She was born January 4th, 1831, passed January 5th, 1904. This was and is probably still somewhere, if not around here, a very large family. Who were they? What were their stories, I ask? I'm sure there were plenty of stories. As I always say, the triumphs, failures, the tragedies, but the adventures, the travels, many of them were immigrants here. Some pioneers way, way back. This, of course, was pioneered. I'm going to say early 1800s, late 1700s. If you get to western, 50 miles west of here, it was really the 1830s where people were settling, pioneering. So you have to figure it was, I'm sure we can look it up. Here's some more over here, some interesting ones. And I see in the distance a mausoleum that looks interesting. We'll check that out. But first, let me zoom in on that. Herrick. Now let's head over to that mausoleum. Always like looking, I know there's a lot of mausoleums here that are built into the hills, to the side of hills. Here's some more statuary and some more stones just melted away. Thank you, Chicago pollution. Says Frank Troost. Well, let's keep heading to that in-ground mausoleum. Here's a more recent grave marker that has a profile. Let's take a look at May. I don't see a ground stone, but looks like a younger woman. What do you think? Interesting, huh? Look how smooth and rounded this is. Now these are interesting. Little tiny stones here, many times represent children. If they're not footstones, these are not footstones. I don't think. They're really small. And here is just a little pile of rocks. This is a marker. And there's a little hole. I think there was something here, guys, right in this, like some statue that sadly fell away or was taken. Look at this. Wonder what this is. This is the vent, obviously. Never seen one like that before. Oh. Yeah, we're not gonna look. Didn't bring my flashlight and there's probably nothing to see, but I'll show you spider webs and an endless hole. It's kind of nice that nobody has taken that. We are standing on top of the roof mound, the tumulus, for this mausoleum. Let's take a look. Oh, and you step down. Looks beautiful. G.M. Stevens. G.M. Stevens. Totally closed off, of course. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for today. Thanks for coming along, and it was a nice walk, if I don't say so myself. We'll see you on the next one, and stay safe.